So today I want to address the question of diversification in business. Another way of looking at the subject is thinking about generating multiple revenue streams. If you look around the world, the wealthiest people that we know of, they are known as people who invest in a number of things. I think Elon Musk is the richest right now, wealthiest. We know him for a couple of things. He's in Tesla, the electric vehicles, SpaceX, doing space exploration. And I know he has a number of other businesses that he's involved in, having recently acquired Twitter, for example. And today we want to look at that as an idea. Is it even feasible? Does it come against and fly in the face of focus and establishing a niche so that you are focused and known for one thing? Or is it actually something that is enviable? How do we generate the capacity? Then if we determine that it's the right way to go, how do we determine the capacity to be able to be in different businesses all at the same time? And as we do here at Narrow Road Ventures, we look at all these questions and delve deep in scriptures to find the wisdom of the Bible in addressing these issues. And right from the beginning, let me just say that the Bible does encourage that we invest in different streams of income as a way of diversification. So our main text today is going to come from Ecclesiastes, the book of wisdom written by Solomon, the wealthiest man who ever lived. And I always find it worthwhile to get some nuggets of wisdom from him because he went through this whole process that we are involved in today. Ecclesiastes 11, verse 2 says, "Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. Do you not know what disaster may come upon the land?" So invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Having come through the pandemic, I think we can safely say that we are beyond the pandemic, COVID-19. We saw that a lot of businesses really suffered. But there are those that did really well. And I would want to imagine for somebody, an entrepreneur who had invested in a variety of businesses, chances are that some of those businesses did well while others suffered. So this idea of investing in 7 ventures, the motivation here is that you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. So it's spreading your risk, so to speak. But this whole idea is actually something that we need to look at and examine and see whether it is possible that at our level, most of the people, the audience that I work with, entry level and probably people who are in entrepreneurship, what you would consider small and medium enterprises. But is it possible that we too can engage in several investments, or are we doomed to just be in one thing, the thing that we are known for? Is investing in multiple ventures a preserve of those who are wealthy, that they can invest as venture capitalists, or is it something that we too can do? I want to reflect a bit, imagining the Bible times when Solomon was around and writing these words. I don't think we had stock markets then. We didn't have this whole idea of venture capitalists, where people would buy out portions of existing businesses that are doing well. Yet, he still went ahead and encouraged us to invest in multiple ventures. This is an interesting idea, and I think in the time that I've been in business, my wife and I have invested in a couple of things that we have founded and businesses that we are running. And we actually have a goal of getting to 7 ventures, probably 8. I don't know where we'll stop at. But right now, we have the leather craft business that I started while I was still serving in missions. We have my wife's trichology practice is something that we run together. We assist our son. We've come together and established a communication company. It's such a joy to be working with him. We are also in the process of establishing short-term rental facilities. And so those are already 4, soon going into 5. I don't know what this outfit will become, Narrow Road Ventures. We have registered it as a limited liability company, which I'm seeking to grow, so that even as we dispense the wisdom of the Bible about doing business, that we can also generate some revenue there as well. And so we are well on our way to getting to that threshold of 7 ventures or 8 ventures. And yet, it's just the 2 of us, of course, with the benefit of having 2 of our children working alongside us. But we also have a huge team of people that work with us, people that we have partnered working with us as employees, of whom we are working together in reaching the goals of this organization. So it is possible. Even though we haven't been in business for that long, both of us having worked in Christian missions, we are seeing that this is actually a possibility, that you can actually invest in 7 ventures. What is lacking, though, as we read through this passage in Ecclesiastes and hearing all these other people who talk about diversification or establishing multiple revenue streams, is the how-to. How do you manage to do all this? How have I done it? How am I able to focus on establishing Narrow Road Ventures while Patori Leather Goods is still going on? To what extent am I supporting my wife in running Bloom Trichology? And this is partly what I want to share, what I have learned through experience, what I have learned through counsel from those who have gone before us, in terms of setting up multiple ventures, and this is what we want to look at. But I will summarize the wealth of that knowledge of how you can go about investing in multiple ventures, and read a passage from Exodus, because I think this is beautiful. In all that I have seen as far as this subject matter is concerned, there is nothing that beats the Jethro Principle. Now, Jethro, if you are familiar with your Bible, was Moses, says father-in-law. And so there's a time he came visiting, and of course went and checked out what Moses was doing in terms of leading the Israelites, and he was not happy with what he saw. He makes a very bold statement and says, Moses, what you're doing is not right. And then he goes on to give him advice on things that he would, he was encouraging Moses to put in place so as to make life more bearable, but to become more effective at his work. So we are going to read from Exodus chapter 18, starting from verse 13. So it says, the next day Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all this, all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, what is this you are doing to the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening? So this is a classic scenario of where people engage in a focused way in one thing that takes your entire time. And so if Moses was doing this for 6 days a week, he had no capacity to do anything else. All that he was doing was hearing disputes and doing so from morning till evening. And so we see Jethro coming along and saying, no, this is not right. And interestingly, if you note how he asked the questions, what is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge? Which means, at least I would interpret it that way, that the people were not getting the best in terms of judgments from Moses, because by the time you are hearing your 8th or 9th case in a day, you're already exhausted and you cannot give your best in such a setup. And so we jump to verse 21 and see what the advice was. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, over hundreds, over 50s, and over 10s. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases, they can decide themselves. They will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. This is the principle that Jethro is recommending here. Find capable men, capable people, capable individuals, people who fear God, trustworthy, who hate dishonest gain, and put them in charge. And I like the way he cascades it, going from over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s, meaning that there is a level of seniority or cadre that will be present. Remember, the Israelites at this time estimating about 2 million people wandering around the desert. But this is very, very helpful, and this is what I would suggest for us. If you are seeking to invest in multiple ventures, then this is your strategy. Find capable people. People who, for us, who are Christians, might be helpful, who fear God, who are trustworthy, people that you can count on, and make them in charge of those ventures. So that depending on how big these ventures are, for most of us, it might just be a couple dozen people or maybe a dozen people, but have people serving either as presidents, CEOs, directors, whatever you call it in your context, and then let that person report to you and be accountable to you. Probably have an accountability meeting just to check on how things are going, maybe once or twice a week, and then empower them, release them to go and run that show for you. So if you work 6 days a week and maybe doing 4 or 5 hours a day as the owner of the business, maybe it will only require you to invest 2 hours every other day per business, and working with that person that you have set as in charge, the one that you have empowered, then you can be able to actually direct the work and know how everything is proceeding. And this is a very empowering process to be involved in. And I have seen it. The general manager we put in charge of Patori Leather Goods started off with us as a shop's attendant. He came to us at the time he was quite vulnerable, looking for work to do. But as we worked with him, we realized that there was more to this guy than just sitting behind a counter and selling to clients. So we put him in charge of the production process. He proved himself. Then we elevated him and gave him more responsibility to the point where we now made him our general manager. And he now basically runs the company. And we meet with him weekly, looking at what was accomplished the previous week and the goals for the following week. And this has proven to be a very, very useful process, not just for me, but for him as well. He has grown and he's growing. And I keep telling him that I want him to learn as much as he can from us, so that when the time comes, when the Lord leads him to something else, he will be able to go out there and set up shop and be an employer of dozens like I have employed. So it's a growth plan that he's on. We are not looking to having him stay with us forever, because there are others behind him who will also need to grow and become like him, so that eventually they too might get out there and become employers of dozens. That's our goal for everybody who works with us. We refer to ourselves as employers of dozens. Right from the day you walk through our gates, that's the posture. You are an employer of dozens. Come, work with us for the time that the Lord will allow you to work for us. And then after that time comes to an end, we want to see you going and becoming an employer of dozens. So that's a very practical way of how you can invest in 7 Ventures. I give some of my time to assist my wife in running her company. I give some of my time assisting our son in running the company. I give some of my time in preparing for all these lessons and immersing myself in scripture and coming out with nuggets that I share on this platform. I'll soon be doing lectures, developing a curriculum for biblical entrepreneurship. I'm involved in all that process, and that is only possible because I have learned to delegate. And Jesus too, if we look at his life, even how he set up the church, working with a team of 12 apostles, empowering them, sending them out, encouraging them, cheering them on. When they come back and celebrate that demons were obeying them, bringing them back to what matters and says, rejoice instead because your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and keeping the main thing. That's why they were doing what they were doing at the time, not to celebrate from all the victories that they were seeing. And at the time when Jesus was coming to the end of his ministry here on earth, as he was empowering the disciples felt vulnerable. They felt threatened. They were fearful. And they didn't want the master to leave. But Jesus very boldly says to them, it is good that I go, so that you too can rise up to your place. And when I was stepping out from my daily involvement in Patori and empowering our general manager, I saw some of that sense of despair and feeling vulnerable, and probably he would have wanted me there much longer. But similarly, I empowered him, encouraged him, cheered him on, and said, at this point in time, it's good that I go, so that I'm able to do other things and support you, not from a distance. I'm present with you. Every day we speak on phone, on WhatsApp. It's only that I'm not present in the factory and in the shops on a day-to-day basis. And this has worked. I can vouch for Jethro's Principle as an idea which can allow you to invest in multiple ventures, 7 or 8. It is practical. It works. I have seen it work.